So I'm just trying to think for ease of access.
What was that movie? I forgot.
Okay.
Candyman. Jeepers Creepers is my favorite.
Yo, everybody there, yo. Oh, he's back.
Yo, all I need is the chick from Urban Legend.
Oh
my gosh!
All right. So again, it's up to you guys to tell me what's easier for y'all. Okay. All right. Let's get this.
What?
Okay.
Yo, there's so many niggas in this shit.
All right. Let me get
From
out of
all
this.
over.
Minimize that.
I'm done, yo.
Double checking.
Yeah, for real. Same face over here.
So I feel like there's
Everybody
a lot
just
of
looking
people
like, I don't know what the fuck to do. It's too many niggas here.
Well, I just got word from Devontae.
I
He
knew it
can't
was
get in,
coming.
so there's not much I can do. He already knows all the tricks, so. All right.
Everybody.
He can't get no shine, yo. He done tried 3 times.
Welcome.
Okay, so as has been my theme for the
Welcome.
day, today is 9/11, September 11th, 2018. Well, 17 years ago,
Man, this is some bullshit.
an
God damn
event
it. I survived all this shit.
the core of the United States. You guys were talking about it. Abigail
I
mentioned it
told you, this
already.
nigga's on a whole nother level,
September 11th, 2001.
Damn.
yo. Even his joints back 8 years ago was
Like,
So-
flames. He just got so much
17
better
years
over time. It's stupid. It's phenomenal, yo.
Terrorist
I know
attack
Freddie pissed off. Nigga probably said, I've been dodging this shit
was
for years.
carried out upon the
Yeah,
United
this shit-
States,
I mean,
We
he ain't
didn't
as
know,
mad as Chucky.
until
because
the
shit
second
about, like,
plane
yo,
hit
motherfuckers fighting
the
over
World
her.
Trade Center, that we knew for sure this was a coordinated attack. Some of you guys have heard me talk about this before. 17 years ago, I was a senior in high school at McCann in North Adams. I was working with my classmate Steve. We were trying to get our shop's restaurant open for a lunch for the superintendent of our school district, and it was one of those things where we were making prime rib, we were making chicken dishes, we were making sandwiches, we were making French onion soup, salads. We wanted to make sure the superintendent got everything he requested, but we didn't have time to stop and kind of pay attention to what was going on around us. We had work to do, and that's what we needed to do. It wasn't until mid-afternoon that I really, that we sat down to lunch and we sat there and watched the TVs in the cafeteria, and it was like, what happened?
You're kidding.
We heard people talking about it, but we couldn't stop and be like, hey, what's going on? We were like, oh no, that, hearing somebody come back and say a plane hit the World Trade Center, oh, that sucks, we went on with life. And then somebody come back saying that, another aircraft hit the other tower, and we're like, whoa, wow. Air traffic control down in New York City or something? We didn't know. We had no idea. And just sitting watching everything happening as it unfolded was just kind of like, wow. There were no words. It's 17 years later. I still, have a hard time explaining it. Absolutely, Al. All right, so let me get myself situated here. Derek, go ahead.
In my opinion, I believe 9/11 was one of the biggest scars in American history.
Absolutely. It was something that, it goes down. It does. It goes down as one of the most, heinous events in history. I mean, I can't quite compare it to the Holocaust, but it's up there. It's up there with it. You know. So here's the thing. Somebody in 8B, there we go, had asked me what the numbers were. So I'm like, okay. By the numbers, it was 2,606 people were in the World Trade Center and on the ground perished in the attacks and the subsequent collapse of those towers. Okay? So the 2606 consists of 2,192 civilians, including 8 EMTs and paramedics that were from private hospitals. The EMTs and paramedics don't necessarily constitute emergency workers only because they're coming from a private institution. But when you talk about like other first responders and emergency workers, 343 members of the New York City Fire Department, 71 law enforcement officers, including 23 from NYPD, 37 members of the Port Authority Police, 5 members of the New York State Office of Tax Enforcement, 3 officers of the New York State Office of Court Administration, 1 fire marshal of the New York City Fire Department, and 1 member of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, 1 member of the New York Fire Patrol, and 1 member of the United States Secret Service. Yeah, I don't know if they count the terrorists as a part of those numbers because they right at the deal. Now, go ahead.
The fire marshal, I heard that his very last words were "Let's roll," and then all of a sudden they never saw him again.
It's possible. It's possible. I was watching some newly released footage from the 9/11 Museum. I think last week. I get a lot of this stuff sent to me by friends in the fire services, and they're just like, this is something you should be aware of. You should watch it. If you can't stomach it, don't watch it. It's like, well, if I couldn't stomach it, I wouldn't be teaching history now, would I? So I did. I watched it, and I'll tell you, it's powerful. I had students on who they'd been to the 9/11 Museum, and at the 9/11 Museum, they play radio calls and 911 calls, and it's chilling. Hearing the calls come in. I mean, I've heard, audio clips on the fireground frequencies. Now, let me clarify something really quick because somebody was confused earlier today. When you call 911, it's automatically recorded. It goes to a dispatch center, and they relay the information coming in from the caller to emergency services, okay, to the appropriate agency or agencies. Some of the other audio that you may hear in videos that comes from the fireground. Okay, now fireground is a frequency that is used to communicate between people on the scene. Okay, so if you ever join the fire department or you guys become police officers or EMTs, there's specific frequencies that are used between direct communication between ambulance and hospital, between the fire chief, officers and other team members, so on and so forth. It's a frequency that not many people can monitor, but it is recorded by the FCC. Okay, so usually it goes through a dispatch center. It's recorded automatically, so that's why we know so much about it. All right, I'm going to jump ahead to...
I think one of the worst parts was, in my opinion, was watching the people how they to jump out.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And when I first heard about 9/11, I was a little bit younger. It actually scarred me for life because I'm afraid to go in buildings.
Don't be afraid. I was going to say, don't be afraid to go in buildings. This I can constitute as an isolated incident. Okay, why can I say that? Well, we've learned a lot since then, and our government has taken dramatic steps to keep us safe. So we are a lot safer than we were on 9/11 2001. It was a different day and age back then, guys, and I'm not kidding you. I remember walking into Albany Airport and like walking up to the gates, you didn't have to go through, endless security checks, bag checks, so on and so forth. It's like it was a different world. After 9/11, traveling became so intense. Like, the TSA, the Transportation Safety Administration, they published a list of things you cannot bring on a plane, like nail clippers. You cannot bring toothpaste, mouthwash. It's because you can in toothpaste you can effectively reuse a toothpaste container, a mouthwash bottle, nail clippers. You can be used as a weapon. Oh yeah, like you cannot bring a pocket knife onto a plane. Again, TSA has a list of banned things that you are not allowed to bring on a plane because it could be used for more, nefarious methods. Yep, no liquids. It's not that the tooth could be used as a weapon. It's you could empty it out and put something else into it.
I just feel completely bad for the families who had to suffer through 9/11. I watched a 9/11 movie with my mom for the anniversary, and no one in my family has been, in 9/11 as a kid, but I still feel so sorry for any family that's going through the loss of loved ones. And my mom keeps saying this. All they had to do was not go to work on that day, and they would have lived.
Well, it's interesting because fate and luck plays a lot into it. A friend of mine, her father actually was an HVAC technician, worked on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. He was supposed to be in New York City the morning of 9/11. He had left North Adams. He was on his way. He was maybe about a third of the way there. He realized he left his tools. So he called his supervisor and said, "Hey, I have to get back to North Adams. I'll be in later in the day. Can I switch a shift?" And they did. They took care of it for him. And by the time he got back to North Adams, everything had gone down. So it was kind of like, grab his tool bag, fate saved him that day. But if he had remembered his tools, my friend might have lost her father. So it is interesting to see how fate played out this day. Now, people have been asking me all day long, was 9/11 a coincidence because of, 9/11? The government knew that Osama bin Laden was planning a terrorist attack. Okay? They just didn't know when it was going to be carried out. So it could have happened on the 10th, it could have happened on the 12th. But it happened, fate, had it happen on 9/11.
What did he say?
Okay, how about this? I'm going to take a couple of volunteers to read some of these quotes here, okay? Who would like to read the first one here by Scott McDonald? All right, Abigail, go ahead.
We started packing away and then tried running from the highway and then collapsing buildings rushing down the street as the North Tower collapsed.
Good job. So yeah, Scott McDonald he was from Australia. This was his eyewitness account. He was visiting the city, and that's what happened. Al, why don't you go ahead and read the next one there?
I was walking on the south side of the West 4th Street when the first plane went over. I heard the plane, wondered about how low and close it was, and I heard the impact. Seriously.
Bristow was a native of Manhattan and was close enough to hear the impact that the plane made on the building. Like you if you've seen the videos and you've heard it, it doesn't do it justice. Like there's nothing can describe it. All right, so I'm going to read this longer one for you guys, okay? I was working near the Washington Navy Yard, actually just down the street.
Yeah.
On the drive-in, I heard on the news that a commuter plane had hit the World Trade Center. I thought, not a big deal. twin-engine Cessna, maybe a Dash 8. You know, a B-52 hit the Empire State Building in 1945. It was a terrible thing, but not a crisis. Then the radio announced that a second plane, a 737, had hit the second tower. Then it became terrible. Roland Inman.
Like turn my volume off for the whole stream and edit in gunshots.
I had this
Like,
thought.
you don't know how annoying
You know, when
it
I
is
heard
gunshots
about the
is.
first plane hitting the Trade Center, nobody said it was a jumbo jet.
390,
You know, all we heard is that a plane hit the World Trade Center, and all I can think of, oh, that's horrible.
Gameplay, though.
And I went on with my day.
I got way too tired.
When I heard about that it was two commercial aircraft that had hit both towers, then I knew something was up. But again, can't put too much together. I was distracted with schoolwork. And he's right. Then it became terrible because, you know, the sequence of events that occur after that was just, I mean, it really kind of boggles the mind. You know, it really boggles the mind.
And
but check
you know
out this
what?
map
One
I
of the
built.
other
Look at-
things is
look at
about
these guys.
9/11.
If you can't
No
tell,
one knows
we're gonna be
if
playing
the
paintball today.
date, which
We
is
gonna play paintball
911.
today, nigga.
Really,
This is a
right?
one-way glass, by the
No
way. So, like, on
one
the
knows
top,
that that was like
spawn up here.
you know
You
an
can,
accident
you
or
can
they
see the
did that
floor.
on purpose.
You see the floor and shit. what's
That
below?
well, that's the thing. Yeah,
But,
that
like,
no, for
the
sure. If
inside,
it
you
was
can't see the
planned for
people.
that day, as I said earlier,
But,
it
like,
could have
I built
been.
all
It
these
could have happened the
walls,
day
like,
before.
if
It could
you're-
have happened
if
the
you're
day
on
after.
ground, it's gonna be
The
like-
only thing the United
like,
States
cool.
government knew is
It's like
that
it's brighter in here.
Osama
Try to
bin
keep it
Laden,
like this.
the leader of Al Qaeda, was
Yeah, if you
planning
climb to the top
some
of this
type
tower,
of
there's
terrorist
like a
attack
bridge
on
that
U.S.
goes all the
soil.
way
That's all they
around.
know.
Like being up here, in my opinion, is like the most OP spot. Some of these houses, like
What are
you
you
can go
taking?
into and stuff.
All right. Oh, Abigail, you have a live mic.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. It's like a whole entire.
Oh yes, absolutely, Abigail. It was
Wait,
planned.
I'm trying to stream
There
snipes
was
on
no
your
doubt
stream.
about it. It was a premeditated attack, and
And
it was years in the making. Before we get into the timeline of events here, let me rewind to 1993. I was in third grade,
Yo, he's about to get
and
jumped.
that was
He's
the
in blue
first
territory.
terrorist attack on the
Oh,
World
he has
Trade
no one
Center.
else with him, bro.
Not too many
He's
people
lagging big
remember
time.
it, simply
Dang, he got
because
clapped. Quasi got
you know,
shot.
all
He
it
was
did
running
was
chilling
some
in the house.
terrorist drove a van into the underground parking garage underneath the World Trade Center. The idea was they were going
Sitting here
to
like, what do I
blow
do,
up one
bro?
tower
What do I
and have
do?
a topple on
He
the
on the
other one.
move. He on the prowl. He on the move.
Yeah.
Damn.
You went
that
like
kid got
4
clapped, bro.
stories underground.
Arrested.
Yeah,
That
you needed a little bit more explosive to get away with that, but it didn't
Whole lot
work.
of Reds are dead.
But the people who were responsible for it were
Yo, how they
apprehended
gonna lose? And we
and
have
brought to justice
Don't even
then.
make
This
no
guy
So
sense.
Quasi
years
is
later,
missing. He's got an
they did it again. This time they
Hey,
did it from
his
the
teammate
air.
came in and took the kill.
So,
for him because he can't
let's
shoot
start
right
with
now.
our
That was still
timeline
my
of
kill.
events.
I shot him
At
so many
7:59 a.m.,
Missing
American
shelter.
Airlines Flight 11 with 92 passengers and crew
I
on board
think no.
departs
He's on the
Boston
tower. He's on the
Logan
tower, bro.
Airport bound
Ghostbusters
for
taking it
Los
down on the
Angeles,
tower.
California.
Oh, he jumped down
So,
from the tower.
Just
He's on the
before
move,
8 o'clock in
bro.
the morning,
He's on the move.
the planes start to take off.
100 Robux.
Oh,
All right, I'll take another volunteer. Who would like to read this?
Stupid Quasi with the AK drum, bro.
All right, Abigail, go ahead.
Dead.
Dang it.
United Airlines
Wanna
Flight
make sure everybody-
175 with 65
And there's
passengers and crew on board depart Boston Logan Airport bound for Los Angeles,
Wow.
California.
Who's ready to get dropped?
Sorry.
We're not gonna get dropped.
So
Wait, can I
fifth
use my
apart.
AK
2
drum in
flights
this
leave
one?
Boston.
Don't
Okay.
use a
Okay,
Glock
got it.
drum.
I don't know about you guys,
And
but it always
people.
kind of gets me that it's like, you know,
And
you
a
could have.
child.
Look at
But again, different day and age.
Okay. I'm coming.
All right. Any other volunteers?
Snipe one, Nick.
If you get, I'll tell you what. If you guys want to read, just put your hand up and I'll circle through.
I'll be sniping
All right.
people.
I know
They coming,
Abigail,
they coming.
I'm going to give somebody else a
I got
chance,
one.
Abigail. Okay.
They
So Al, go ahead.
One's dead. One's dead. Oh no.
At 8:20 a.m., American Airlines
Wow.
Flight
Clap two so
77
far.
with
I need some help.
64 passengers and
Give
crew
me some help.
on board departs from
I
Washington,
need to watch
D.C.
Lord.
bound for
Somebody
Los
help
Angeles.
Shelby.
PKs. I ain't got no PKs.
Bingo.
I got
So
PKs.
the third plane
No.
comes out of
Help,
what was formerly known as Dulles International Airport.
Yo, why
in
does the
DC,
deagle not work? I have the
And
curses aimed
it's
right on him. and
Also
it's not
going to be
killing him.
heading out for Los
I'm
Angeles,
gonna keep
California.
pressing E.
Bro, why are they not pushing? They have
All
like
right.
the whole.
8:37 a.m.
I
Air
can somebody
traffic
with you,
controllers
somebody with you,
report the suspected hijacking
Somebody.
of Flight
Somebody.
11. I know it's a little bit small, but if you look carefully at the
Shoot those
map
people,
that's
shoot them,
there,
shoot- Yo, I dare
okay,
this
you can
nigga to
see the
pop out.
planes that left Boston
right
Yo,
there?
this man
that left
ain't
Logan
trash,
International
yo.
Airport.
If I was
The
legit
first
and
plane,
said, "You
it takes a very
Yo, I'm literally. I dare him to pop out. I
route,
dare
goes
you.
over the state, actually comes flying over my neck
I
of
go
woods
to
here
them.
in
You shot me. You shot
Massachusetts,
me, bro.
heads towards Albany, and then
Why don't you
all of a
help me?
Bro, come
sudden
with me, bro. On
it
me.
makes
They're in the
an
house. They're in the
abrupt
house.
turn going
This is the guy
south.
that killed Quasi.
At this point, air traffic controllers know something's wrong. They've tried to contact the plane. They're getting no answer. So they do what they normally do.
No,
They
no,
alert
it's not
the
hitting him. This is
military
where
to
I
say
died.
we have a
Reloading.
possible hijacking. One of the
Bro,
things
what?
the FAA checks for
What
is
is
if they
that
get
lag?
no response and they see a dramatic change in flight pattern, they call the military and say you need to scramble jets. Unfortunately, they
taking
weren't.
PKs
The
and
order
not
wasn't
shooting,
given
bruh?
quickly
You
enough.
sold.
Nowadays, if
ammo.
somebody were to report a suspected hijacking,
Dang.
it's treated with
It's
immediate
2-on-1 if I was
response.
about to die.
So again, you can see the other flights there. The second plane
Oh
took a
my
little bit more of a
God, yo.
direct route
We
down,
lost, bro.
and then abruptly turns, just outside of New Jersey, and then comes back into the city.
Yeah, he's the best. Okay.
The flight,
Alright,
the
okay.
flight
We started-
93
He's the best.
takes out of. Oh yeah, we didn't
All right.
get there yet. Sorry, the third one.
We literally the whole
Was,
I'll literally educate
Flight
you.
77. You
I
can
really
see
don't care
it
about
made it
whatever
all the
you're
way
doing.
out
I don't
towards
care about California.
like
Follow me,
Ohio,
follow
West
me,
Virginia
bruh.
before
Electro,
it turns
let's
back
go.
and goes back
Let's
towards DC.
go.
On me.
Can I kill you guys?
No.
All right, Abigail, why don't you go ahead and read
I
this
don't like
one?
This fucking whale.
8.2 a.m.
Sorry, please. I was
United
kidding.
Airlines Flight 93 with 45
In this house. In this
passengers
house. Shit, they
and
shot
crew
me, bro.
members
He's
on board,
sounding lagging
including
so
the
bad. dude.
tourist department, New
I
York,
don't know where you
New
went.
Jersey,
Inside that house.
and
Inside that house.
Francisco,
Hurry, hurry.
California.
Yo, protect
So
me,
they're
protect
all
me.
westbound flights. They're
Get
all
PKs
supposed to
out
go
of
to
the house.
California.
Please, PKs.
None of
No,
them make
no.
it. The only difference is that United 93
Watch out. They're
has a
all
whole
around the
different
house. They're
story.
all around the house.
I'll talk about that a
Oh,
little
they
bit
shot
more.
out.
I got the guy that killed Bell. I got him.
Yeah, as I said, we'll talk about it more as we go.
Your life and guts.
So at
I dropped so many
8:46
bodies up here
a.m.,
so far.
Flight 11 crashes into the north tower of the World Trade Center.
Sheldon, you
The
got
north
PK?
tower, as you can see by the pictures here, is the one with the antenna in
Sheldon,
it.
you got
Okay,
PK? Yo, PK.
This one.
Where'd the PK go?
that's the north
Please,
tower. So
Okay.
you can see the angle coming in. People
Somebody
are like, "Well,
walking
that's the
across
wrong
that
tower." No,
tightrope,
that's
yo.
the, believe me, it's the right
Never
one.
mind. Got him.
And then you can see the
Okay,
smoke
Tom, did you
billowing
see
out
the
because it
Eagle
hits the
snipe?
upper floors.
There's a kid right there who needs to be sniped.
All right, any questions
Where?
so far?
Literally don't see anybody.
Right here. Fuck,
Oh, I
you
see
got
him,
me.
I
You
see
got
him.
me. Oh, shit.
Go
You
ahead,
got
Ashley.
PKs?
Let's heal.
How many floors
So
in
you're-
Twin
so you're cheating.
Towers?
It's
Somebody
literally-
right behind this wall. Right behind this wall.
Good
Literally.
question. Let me check my notes here real quick.
Damn. Damn.
Who
I
said
can tell
Quasi
you
was dead?
Okay,
I might be dead.
How
Never
many
mind.
stories was it?
Still alive.
All right, good. Oh, snap.
Yo, drop me PKs down here. Sheldon, PKs right here.
Drop that nigga on the top of his head.
Come on, Sheldon. Okay, good
All
job.
right,
Good job.
let's see here.
I'm gonna
Yo,
go
they're
rush.
all on that
I
tower.
know
over
it's
there.
here
They're all on
somewhere.
that tower.
Literally, if I hold on, somebody's
What tower?
dead over
Where
here.
is
I
it?
think.
Hold
Is
on,
he
let me
playing
change
dead?
the time to 1.
No, he's dead. Wait, where? Abby,
All I want to know is the amount, how many stories it was.
Did y'all hear that?
I'm dead. I'm
Made
dead.
it to the motherfucking tower, bro.
I'm
All
dead.
right, well, I
worry,
don't have
it's
stories,
slow
but I can
health,
tell you that the
Snipe
North
him, he's
Tower
off, he's off.
was
Ah!
one
Where
point
did
the
this-
tallest
where did
building
she
in the
come from?
world.
Where did she come from? Where did she come from?
1,368
Where did she come from? Where?
though.
So,
Anytime
and,
I'm just gonna kill Val and-
The South Tower was 1,362
Bruh, I
feet. The
bet
difference
she was on
was
the second floor, just
um,
waiting for me to
the
climb
antenna
up.
on the top of the building.
That is what. Oh my fucking god!
Yeah, we just need high grounds.
Rich Panda's
So there you
dead.
go.
Still have to find Sheldon, bro.
So it was
Sheldon is
100,
lost.
yeah,
She was
110
she
sound
was
per
typing,
beat.
she had a drum.
'Cause that was the number
Yeah,
of
she had a drum and then
floors.
she changed it to
I
a
forget how
drum.
many actually steps it was, and I should know this by
Whose
now.
night was it gonna roll?
Sheldon, did you spot somebody?
Val, I can still kill you right now. You know this,
Yeah,
right?
Abigail, go
Oh
ahead.
snap! She's injured, yo. I missed it. I missed it.
Oh, send evidence that
Wait,
for
but where's
that.
Sheldon?
Val dies too.
Thank you.
I'm the only one alive.
Sheldon's
I tried to
dead.
find it quickly, and I couldn't.
Sheldon's
right.
dead.
8:55 a.m. President George W.
Wait.
Bush is alerted. The president is
What the fuck this nigga
the
keep getting?
president is at Emma E. Booker Elementary School in Sarasota, Florida. The gentleman who was leaning over his shoulder was his national security advisor. His name is Andrew.
All right, we're gonna
Carr.
do one last game,
You can see
Me
the
and
look
Quasi
of
versus everybody.
disbelief
and
on
then
the president's
end the
face
live
right there.
stream.
Bush was widely criticized for not reacting
Shoot. All right, I'm
for not
flying
reacting
just in
like
case because I know I'm gonna do it.
people would have expected the president to react. And I'm sitting there
Did you do it?
going,
Yeah.
He was in a room full of
Why am I not
elementary
flying?
students.
All right, the wall.
First
the wall's
thing-
down.
First and foremost, the leader of the free
Up
world
here
is
is, like,
not going to
honestly the
panic.
best
He's
spot
not going
for
to
right
show
Literally,
a bunch of little
Eagles.
kids that he's
We
scared.
won.
Okay, so
Go.
he
There they
did.
go,
He
there they
sat
go.
there
I
for a
fell.
few
I
minutes.
fell. I fell.
He did.
fell?
He reacted
You're an idiot.
properly to keep
I'm
people
literally
calm.
stuck back here.
The second time
This TV.
Mr.
Oh,
Card
it's lagging really
goes over to the
fucking bad.
president, the
Yeah.
president
They
finally
all
goes,
literally came.
you know,
They're all
guys,
back here.
I got to step
They've
out
all
of the room
literally-
for a minute.
What
I'll
the
be back.
fuck?
He goes, he views
That's why I was
materials.
telling you to
He goes
do it.
to their
That was the
gymnasium. They
scariest
show,
shit ever.
you know, he
Yo, I wish my
informs them of
deagle
what's
wasn't so
going on.
glitched. Like I'm
He said,
aiming
"Listen,
right at
I
him, but
have
it
to
doesn't
go.
kill him. I gotta go
This
that
is a
nigga's
matter
head,
of,
bro.
you know, national security." He's whisked away to his motorcade. He's put on Air Force One.
Literally,
and
there's
flown to
no
an
point in
undisclosed
peeking unless
location.
you guys have a deal.
He did actually he's true to his word. He did go back to the elementary school and he did what he had come there to do that day, to read a story to the class and, you know, and get to know some of the students.
Programming you to crave more and more. Don't get hacked.
So so he did he was a class act. I mean, I might not have agreed with his presidency, but I can get on board with that. He did what he could during the crisis. All right. Any other volunteers? All right, go ahead, Abigail.
9:03 a.m. Flight 175 crashes
Yeah,
into
can you
South
ready up,
Carolina
please? You're
of
the
the
only
World
one left.
Trade
Come on,
Center.
bro.
Hold on, bro. I'm gonna
Good job. This one caught a lot more people's attention because not only did it come in lower
This game is old,
over the
dude.
city, but
Ready
in
up,
a
like,
hit lower.
5
That caught a lot more people's
4,
attention because, you know, I mean, there's only a few difference in feet between the first strike and the second strike. And then the
Finally,
bottom picture
it's
here,
about
that was
time.
taken just a few blocks right after the impact. And it's amazing to see. It's horrific and mesmerizing at the same time. You know, but, you know, this is the dawn of the digital age where everybody had cell phones, everybody had cameras. This, you know, people around the world knew what was going on before people in New York City had even an idea of what happened. Al, why don't you go ahead and read the next one?
9:37 a.m. Flight 77 crashes into the west side of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C.
So this is the third plane crash within a matter of an hour. So now we know this after the Pentagon is struck. That's when news outlets started saying America was under attack. At 9:42 a.m., the Federal Aviation Administration grounds all flights nationwide. So planes were in the air. If they were close to their destination, they were allowed to land. If they were too far away, they grounded them, told them to land wherever they could. It was a mess. It messed up people's travel plans. It messed up business plans. It messed up holiday plans for people. But they made the right call. They took every plane, you know, and grounded it. 9:59 a.m. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. I've heard for years everybody go, well, okay, the South Tower was struck second. Why did it collapse first?
It wasn't funny.
The way the plane came in at the angle, the velocity, the subsequent explosion after impact did more structural damage to the building than the first one did. The first one struck very high. The second one struck lower. So therefore did hit it at a more critical stress point, as I would call it. At 10:03 a.m., United 93 crashes near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Now, I know Derek knows a little bit about this, and I'm going to fill you guys in. The passengers on United 93 pretty much staged a coup and tried to combat the terrorists. They eventually overtook the plane and forced it down in Pennsylvania. Realizing what they were going to do, they decided it was, easier. It was easier for them to get the plane to just, plummet, which is theoretically what happened. We don't know for sure because there was really not too many eyewitnesses. This is a rural part of Pennsylvania.
And then, bring up the plane because it was already going at such a speed that, it was going to hit the ground eventually, so they didn't have enough time to, get the plane back up. So, but the sad part is they knew they were going to die. That's the sad part.
It is sad, but it also, for lack of a better term, makes them heroes. They sacrificed themselves to prevent another attack.
I'm so sorry.
And that is very notable of them.
It is. All right, 10:15 a.m. The E-ring section of the Pentagon collapses. So the Pentagon is a very interesting building. It has, they call them rings, okay? They were still in the midst of trying to do rescues when they started hearing, sounds about it, and they got evacuated as many people as they could out there, and then it collapsed. All right, Abigail, why don't you go ahead and read the next one here?
Anthony and the North Tower of World Trade Center collapsed.
So you can see the sequence of pictures here. Here's the interesting thing about the North Tower. It collapsed. I mean, when it went down, it went like I couldn't believe how quickly it went down. The South Tower, it looked like it took, it kind of took its time. This one, once it went down, that was it. It was like unbelievable.
Jason, stand back!
Al, why don't you go ahead and read this one?
Really fighting one bullet? Shit.
11:02 New York Mayor
Giuliani.
Giuliani orders the evacuation of the lower Manhattan.
So this guy here with the glasses and the bald head, that was Mayor Giuliani. Standing next to him, the big tall dude, was then New York Governor George Pataki. They addressed the city together, and they were kind of dumbfounded. It's like, what do we do? Let me before we go on. Mass casualties are extraordinary situations. You can prepare, train for them, but nothing ever truly prepares you for it to happen. You can be prepared as much as you want until the incident actually happens. You just don't know what to expect. So that's why they always tell us in our field,
Watch me make
expect the
strawberry cheesecake
unexpected.
in 6 seconds.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Amazing. I know, right?
Later as the world kind of in the United States reassessed what was going on, at 8:30 p.m., President Bush addresses the nation from the White House. After it was deemed the threat had been, minimized, the president returned to the White House and
Mrs. K, I
made a statement to the United States. He told the American people that, give me a second, let me pull up the quote. I have it here. Where is it? That one. Where did it go?
we know where it is, and next time will be better.
Oh, no, did I lose it? Well, anyways, I had it up. Basically, he talked about, this. He goes, some people wanted to scare the United States. They failed. And he's right. They failed. It did not scare us. It pushed us to resolve harder. In the days after 9/11, it was amazing to see the renewed sense of patriotism, by Americans. I went to a concert. It was my first ever concert I went to. It was out in Worcester. It was put on by the Hard Rock station out of Boston, the WAAF. And you know, half the bands that were supposed to be there ended up canceling because their flights were grounded, you know, outside of the United States or all over. A band from New York City called the radio station, came up just to play. They were like, you know what? We can't sit here. We need to go out and do something. So they drove up from New York City the morning of, and they were amazing. You know, it was just, again, it brought people together. So the aftermath here. These pictures, the next couple of pictures are pretty, you know, prolific. The firefighters searching through the rubble, walking through after the building collapsed. It's impressive because it's like, it looks. What would you guys say these pictures look like?
Bombing.
Okay, it looks like there was a bombing. Okay, fire. There's a certain
This
word
is an
I'm looking
invisible
for.
wire
It begins
from
with an
Smile Direct
A.
Club. It takes teeth like these and transforms them into.
No, I think that's got apocalypse. Apocalyptic. It does. It looks like something out of a movie that you know, it looks like something you would never see in real life. There's the remnants of the fire trucks there, and you can see like all this stuff in the air. People are like, "What is all that in the air?" That was like drywall, sheetrock, stuff like that. Really, really bad stuff.
So one of the other worst parts about 9/11 was the after kills. Because of all that debris, people got a lot of diseases like lung cancer, heart disease, and other things like that.
Oh yeah, it was. There's been 9/11 related deaths long after the initial event. That stuff in the air was horrible. I mean, you think of it this way: you have materials in buildings that are somewhat toxic. You have debris combined with other interesting stuff that's, you know, out in the city there. It was just incredibly toxic.
Trail of bloody clothes leading to the well house. Jesus, you get there and unsolved mysteries.
We're up!
I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to bring some friends together.
Where was the Well House?
I don't know. Somewhere in town, I guess.
Sorry.
Why?
There we go. All right. So in the aftermath of everything, they, you know, it took months. Actually, I was gonna say, I think it took maybe longer than that to fully clean it up.
At Smile Direct Club, we believe
It took quite some time
to get a smile you'll love.
The debate after was removed, what came down to, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with the site? Do we rebuild there? Do we what? In the end, they decided to make a memorial where the buildings once stood.
Are you serious?
As you can see here, there are two big reflecting pools, and in the center of them, they have these enormous spotlights that shine up where they once stood. And it is an amazing sight to see. I've actually yet to see it in real life. I've only seen it through pictures like this. I've had friends who have been to the 9/11. Casey, you went there?
Fuck. I don't like this.
I think Betty
I'm going to ask you a question.